Be a follower of Jesus means you have your eyes fixed on the goal, on the finish line. You are running the race. You are fighting the good fight. You do not look backwards. You keep going and you keep going wherever Jesus calls you. There's no time to go back. There's no time to hesitate. There's no time to think about it. There's no time to say goodbye. You need to go. Do it now. The first person in our passage today, one of three of would-be followers. Now, of these three would-be followers, they all seem to have eager intentions. They all appear to want to be followers of Jesus with conditions. And it makes us realize that as eager as they were and as well-intentioned as they were, they didn't quite understand what it meant to follow Christ. And I think this is something very instructive for us. And it's something that we need to hear today, because I think the version of Christianity that is popular, that is mainstream, is a very low standard of what it means to be a Christian. You don't really have to do much, right? Just say a sinner's prayer, go to church, and you're a Christian. And it's very easy. It's very easy to be a Christian in this presentation, or this version that is presented to us on a mainstream and a wide path presentation, but Jesus raises the stakes. They're much higher. And I guess the question then becomes for us, do we follow Jesus? Are we willing to follow Jesus the way he calls us to follow him? Being a Christian is not merely being a churchgoer. There's lots of churchgoers. Jesus doesn't need churchgoers. He needs disciples. He wants followers, people who are committed and people who are serious about his cause. So let's look at the first one. And the first person brings us to a first self-evaluating question, and that is, are we willing to give up everything for Jesus? That's the first question in evaluating, are we true followers of Jesus? Are we willing to give up everything for Jesus? Because that's precisely what the first person encounters in a confrontation or a challenge from Jesus, rather. And so it says here, again, we see the man come forward. He says, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. So here we have this one man, and he spoke with an air of confidence. He says to Jesus, wherever you go, I'm with you. Just tell me and let's go. And you have to admire the sentiment, right? You have to admire, because he was eager and at least vocally expressed the desire to go wherever Jesus told him to go. But I don't think he was really counting the cost, and Christ, knowing his heart, challenged him to really think about what he was saying. He had no idea what it would be like to follow Jesus, much like I don't think many of us today understand what it really means. Having a sincere desire to follow Jesus and actually following Jesus are two different things. Many of us have sincere desires, but very few people can actually commit to what it means. And so Jesus responds to him with this enigmatic statement, well, foxes have holes and birds have nests. And he goes to nature, right? So we know that foxes, they come out at night. They're nocturnal animals. They raid the hen house. They raid the vineyards. They're known to be predators. And where I live up in Yorktown, a lot of people do have chicken coops, and foxes are the greatest enemies of those who raise chickens in northern Westchester. They are, and I've seen them. They're beautiful animals. But at the end of the day, when they're done their pillaging and plundering, they have a den to go home and lay down and rest, right? In the same token, the birds, they fly through the air. God has gifted them with wings to soar about and go wherever they want. But at the end of the day, they can go home into their nest and lay down and rest. What Jesus is saying is the Son of Man doesn't have a home. And this is true. Christ never owned a house. He didn't own a business. He had nowhere to rest his head. He was an itinerant preacher who went from village to village, and whoever welcomed him into their home, he stayed, and there was his bed for the night. If the Samaritan village says, we don't want you, He had nowhere to lay down that night. And so it was a very real realization for this man who wanted to follow Jesus. In the immediate sense, he had to know that if you want to join my apostolic band and follow me, just realize a lot of the comforts that you enjoy now, like having a bed to sleep in and a home to go to every night, that's not guaranteed to you. You have to be willing to give all of that up to be one of my followers. Now, I want you to consider that for a moment. Because Jesus does have a home, right? His home is in heaven. Before Jesus became a man, before Christ became incarnate, the Son of God in his eternality existed forever in heaven with the Father and Holy Spirit. And so Christ, prior to the incarnation, his home was the throne room of God, a palace of light with the glory and the praise of all the angels. And so Christ very much has a home, but he left that home and he came from a palace of light to a world of darkness, to in essentially a sewer pit of sin and death. And he came as a stranger to a place that he created, that he made, that he endues by his grace. And the very creatures that he made rejected him, and he had nowhere in this world to enjoy the comforts of life. From the moment he was born, there was nowhere for him. The narrative of Bethlehem, the narrative of his birth, teaches us that when Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem looking for a place to stay, we read there was no room for them at any inn. No one would take them in. And Jesus was born in a cave among livestock. In the context of our sermon, he was refused passage through Samaria. And we know that he would go to Jerusalem, ultimately be rejected by everyone and crucified. In other words, what Jesus is saying here, if the Son of Man gave up everything to do the will of God and fulfill his mission to be the Savior of the world, then anyone who would follow Jesus must likewise be willing to give up everything in this life, including the comfort of your own home. Now, what does that not mean? I am not telling you that if you own a house, you need to go sell it now, and then you'll be a follower of Jesus, right? Then we would all be homeless. Where would we live, right? So that's not what this is teaching here. But what it is teaching is that you must be willing and ready to give up anything in this life, including your home, for the sake of Christ. It means following Jesus is going to take us to places sometimes that we don't want to go. Now, we don't really understand that here in America, do we? Because being a Christian, there's really no consequence or cost to it. But if you live in a country like, for instance, Pakistan, or if you live in Iran and you become a Christian, it's very costly. Your family will reject you. They may even report you to the authorities. In Iran, it is very costly to become a Christian, and you could lose your home, you could lose your business, you could lose your freedom and go to jail. And so for someone who's living in a context like that, what Jesus is saying here is very real. It means that following me will cost you everything. Now, to some degree, it will cost us here in the U.S., and sometimes that means a willingness to give up. Maybe God calls you to be a missionary. I think of Caleb and Melissa Gibello, who we support, both from Bergen County, middle-class area. They both came, could have lived a very comfortable life in Bergen County and gone to church there. But God put a call on their lives to be missionaries in Papua New Guinea. And we've seen them when they come here. And we've seen the pictures they put up. They live in a hut, in a shack, in the most remote area of Papua New Guinea, dealing with a tribe. I mean, there's nothing. They have no internet. They have no running water. They are living 1,000 years in the Stone Age among a tribe that never heard about Jesus, and they've dedicated their life to translating the New Testament to this tribal language and winning people to Christ. They gave up the comforts of this life here to do that, because that was what following Jesus meant for them. If God put the call on you to do such thing, would you be willing to give it all up? Oh, I couldn't do that, Bob. That's too much. That is exactly the point what Christ is saying here. You see, we have to realize something more important And that is, our home is not in this world. I want you to think about it. There are a lot of Christians who lose everything, particularly in the first 3 centuries. In Rome, in the Roman Empire, Christians lost their freedom. They were martyred. How does one sustain their hope and faith in times of great adversity? It's they realize your hope is not in this world. Your home is not in this world. I love that song, that old Southern song we sing, this world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. Because it tells us something so important. Our home is in heaven with God. Psalm 90, verse 1 says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. That's the beauty of it. So you know what? It doesn't matter if you're a Christian who lives in Iran, who's rotting in a prison, or if you are a Christian who owns a house in Westchester County like I do. Your home is not in this world. Your home is with God. And when you know that that's your home, when you know that that's the place that is your dwelling place, then the losses of this world mean nothing. And that's exactly why Jesus did what he did. He knew where he was from and he knew where he was going. And so therefore, whatever he suffered in this world was okay.